Didn't want the itching godfather to pin me down. So,
just left the room, Andy, you're all right.
So yeah, just a little description. Obviously, all of the conservation officers are running a range of projects every year, which we all love doing, actually getting in and making a difference, which is what we think the Wild Trout Trust is all about. I'll kick off with the first one. So just a little bit of geography. I don't know if people know the Monks Brook. It's the bottom tributary, very much an urban catchment of the River Itchen. Joins the Itchen down at Swaithling in the tidal pool at Wood Mill. It's considered by the Environment Agency to be a very, very important stream for sea trout spawning, which is remarkable really because certainly most of this bit here is all completely lined in concrete. I think Sean's house is on here too, somewhere's up there. It's probably your fault, Sean. But basically, with the Wild Trout Trust, we got involved in the Monks Brook basically because I don't know if people drove past it, but there's a new box culvert on the Monks Brook at that location. And the Environment Agency pinned the Highways Agency down to coming up with some mitigation for shading out some of the channel. I was asked to go through, have a walk through with the contractors Interserve working on behalf of the Highways Agency to identify a project. And you don't have to be a fish expert to realise that a river that's completely lined in concrete, both banks, and even though we've got trees growing here, they're actually growing on top of concrete. So the entire channel you can wade through, other than when it's in full spate, in a pair of wellies and stay completely dry, about a kilometre of channel. I was told at the outset that we could do anything we like, provided we didn't touch the concrete, which obviously wasn't in my agenda. I think what we needed to do was to create some, at the very least, some decent holding pools to make a little bit of a sanctuary for sea trout on migration. Hopefully, a bit of enhanced spawning as well. So there was some good habitat there. Incidentally, out of my 3 talks, this is the only bit of woody debris you'll see. This is a woody debris-free talk. But there was little bits of habitat there, and you can see at the top of the picture there, there's even, there's quite a lot of gravel in this channel that's just washed down and sits on top of the concrete. But there's obviously no lateral or vertical scour. You can tell by the expression on the face of this contractor that they were really thrilled to be doing river enhancement work. And that was a bit of a challenge for the first few days. They were really miserable. I turned up with the wrong kit, and what I went in asking for was that we would create 7 nice pool features. In the end, because of cost, they agreed to do 3, which still equated to just shy of 1,000 square metres of concrete removal, which took them a bit longer than they thought it was going to, mainly because it was all reinforced, and also all of the machines that we used in the river had to be tracked the full length of the river underneath the box culvert. Access is very poor at that location. But basically we just chiselled away, knocked out the concrete. That's just one pile of concrete taken out of one pool feature. Took that away. We brought in about 100 tonne of gravel just to shape the pools. We did use some of the woody material there just to create a little bit of a throat to the pool. This is under low flow conditions, but the objective is to create sort of a pool rather than being welly deep. If you went up there in thigh waders, you'd get caught out. And to create, as I say, some good adult holding habitat. It's quite interesting because we've got no monitoring data whatsoever before or after on this project. Unfortunately, like so many other WTT projects, absolutely no funding to do this. It was a case of going in while the road was being built, using the contractors and doing the job. One of the things I had heard about, that there's a ford that crosses this particular part of the Monks Brook, and the locals, the Jeremy Clarksons in the local population, love to go up and down the Monks Brook in their 4x4s. Seems like a great sport. And that particular pool, it'd only been dug for 24 hours, and I caught myself a really nice big Land Rover. That's not it actually, but I can consider that to be quite a success, but I'm really hoping that some sea trout will settle in there. Right, moving swiftly on, going a little bit further east, the River Hamble, and I'm sure everyone who's driven along the M27 will have gone over the Hamble estuary, great big estuary, disappearing up into a little stream. Very, very similar in a lot of ways and characteristics to the New Forest streams, quite acidy and gravel rich. And the Environment Agency, to their credit, built a fish pass here at Botley about 6, 7, 8 years ago, a naturalistic bypass channel using a diamond stone design. And sea trout duly did what they were meant to do, whistled upstream, and they get as far as there because there's, as the name suggests, a milling structure there. We know sea trout get up that far because this is the garden just downstream of the mill, and I think you'll agree that is a filthy great big red there, and that certainly wasn't dug by the tail of a 12-inch brownie. And we were invited to go and have a look at the site. Actually, Denise and I went and had a look at the site at Durley Mill, and the landowner there was very, very keen to get involved with the local catchment partnership. And we worked with the EA catchment coordinator and Groundworks, who were the catchment hosts. Didn't actually see Groundworks on site too often, I have to say, but they did look after the money for us, which was quite good. And we decided that we would modify that structure, which is a bypass channel. This is the main milling lead that goes down to the main impoundment. We couldn't touch that historic mill, but there was this lovely little channel that whips all the way round, and we thought, well, maybe we can bang a fish pass on there. We don't generally build technical fish passes, A, because they're an incredibly bureaucratic process to go through in terms of getting all the consents and permissions, often hideously expensive, and I just thought it'd be a nice challenge to see if we could manage the process and deliver a technical fish pass at what I would call a sort of a knockdown price. We went out to tender for a design, and Fish Tech designed us and provided us with some engineering drawings, and we had a superactive baffle Lorinier fish pass constructed, and we installed it ourselves with some local groundworks contractors. That's us putting our new Meccano set together in front of the mill. The groundworks contractors were all used to driving machines and dumpers. Unfortunately, this was a carry-in job, which was, we made a sort of there's nothing you can't do with 4x2, isn't that right, Paul? And carry the fish pass in sections. The steels were a little bit more problematic. This is the steels that we used to support the fish pass, and dug a little pad to support it, cut a hole in the weir, put that in because when it was drained down, when we stanked it off, there were lots of eels there. There is an eel pass in there at the moment. The EA boys put it in. Doesn't quite work at the moment, but it will, I'm told, very soon. We take health and safety very serious. That's my groundworks contractor. He drew the short straw and having to lay in the mud and do all the bolts up underneath the fish pass. He's probably naked, but he's got steel toe cap boots on. And he is lying on a little bit of neoprene, so we looked after him. He looks happy enough, I think you'll agree. Not the most aesthetically pleasing structure in the world, I'll grant you. It has weathered a bit since then. It could be clad. The landowner's quite happy with it, and she said, no, that's fine, I don't mind that. So we're going to live with the shiny Lorinier fish pass, but it will get covered in gunge and algae in due course. It is a cameo. I've got to move on quickly. Swiftly going to the far east now, out to Suffolk. Got involved in a whole tranche of, I might as well move to Suffolk actually, I think I've decided, because I've got involved in quite a few projects over on the River Lark. A bit about geography, I don't know if you know it, Mildenhall, Bury St Edmunds here, so Birmingham's over here, the North Sea is here, this is Suffolk. The river actually flows that way, which is quite surprising really, but we've done a whole tranche of projects with local partners, mainly the two fishing clubs there, the Lark Angling Preservation Society and the Bury Angling Club is a few of the members, I think we've got Glenn in the audience here, and they're looking rather pleased there because this is a phase of the lark that we finished last March. You can see we'll be tracking up and down with the machine, and a little bit of the newly enhanced river at the back, which is using this dig and dump technique, which I'm assuming people in here may be familiar with, but it's about making the shape of the channel different. Rather than it being all uniform glide, making it humpy bumpy, pull, riffle and glide by redistributing the material within the channel, but also, in this particular case, also importing some gravels and shaping the tail of the pools to get some good spawning sites. There's three lark guys, and unfortunately, I don't know, is he in here today? He's not. That's just as well, because he's the bird. We had tremendous support from the Environment Agency, and I have to say, and I know Sean said it at the start of the meeting, but we do go around the country and we find people that we can work with in the Environment Agency. This is one of them, James Hooker, absolute diamond, fisheries officer, technical officer over in the Anglian region there, and he's been very supportive of the work that we've been doing. That's a typical site, what the lark actually looks like. As I say, it's very, very flat, lowland river. It's a big secret, but there's some surprisingly big trout in the lark. Theo pricked his ears up over there. I think he'll probably be paying a visit maybe. But any of these lowland rivers that have crayfish in can often surprise you when it comes to wild trout. Just a little bit about the technique. You can tell this is one of my slides, by the way, because every picture I take, I always have my shadow in it. But this is the only photograph I've got of Dr. Nigel Holmes. We were doing a little bit of work on the River Meon a few years ago. It was an eye-opener to me because I was doing my conventional chalk stream habitat restoration work, posts and faggots, narrowing, all the things that we know and love. Took me sort of 5 days to do a sort of 50-metre section. Nigel came in 3 hours. He created these two amazing pools with his machine, and he'd gone again. And I have to say, I was very sceptical about the technique initially, but those pools hold an awful lot of fish. It does work. And Nigel did quite a bit of work up in Anglian region, and indeed he did the first phase of work on the River Lark, which I think Glenn will tell you has been a great success. Glenn will tell you all about the lark, a font of all knowledge. Water voles are a bit of an issue because it's absolutely riddled with water vole, which is fantastic, but of course it does restrict sometimes where you can work. But one of the things that we did there, it didn't stop us actually redistributing material. So a lot of the gravel that you see here has come out of the bed and been shifted, but we maintained these little wet gutters, and that's perfectly acceptable. You can still track in with a machine. You can work over the water voles, provided you don't actually crush the burrows or bury them. You can actually put a little bit of brushwood in and fill these in if you want to, without damaging the water voles as well, and they'll muck along quite nicely like that. So a long reach machine is really useful. Winning material from the floodplain, like sedge sods, to push in, pinch the channel and work your way down, and eventually just get all this energy back into the river. As I say, we're 2 phases down. We've got another phase planned for this year, and I've also done more visits. I've got a stack of reports to write up on the lark, so we will have mended lots of it very shortly. That's it. Thank you. Ron's got me.
Can